pretty soon. This stream is intended to be used for educational purposes only. It's not to be used as financial advice. Even if this was mistaken as financial advice, this is god awful financial advice. You would be very, very poor if you actioned any of the stuff we're looking at. We're just going to look at how colors wiggle and trying to get into a set schedule. It's going to be about Wednesday or Thursday, around 8 o'clock Central Time. Going to keep doing the weekly streams and try to keep that. Um, so I quit hitting people with the impromptu streams. But anyway, lucky to have one of our OGs, good friend of mine, Doppel, was glad to come hang out with us on a Wednesday. So thank you for showing up. We got a lot of good questions, I'm sure. I know there's a lot of stuff that some of the other people are probably gonna want to ask. But how's it going, Dop?
Going good. Been pretty busy. Not really looking at charts too much, honestly. But we'll see what I can provide on the stream. Hopefully, I am kind of excited that we are entering October. Everybody's expecting some seasonality to show up soon, and we can talk about that a little bit more as we get further in the stream. But yeah, not a whole lot. Just enjoying time and relaxing. And I think a lot of people hopefully had some time over the summer during the lulls of some of the depressing crypto trading that we've seen on charts in PA. And now we're heading into fall. Time to wake up and see how the rest of the year ends.
Yeah, I feel the same. Nexus, I just turned up Doppel a bit. That may have fixed it. Doppel, can you talk a little
It
bit
says
more?
1, 2. Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe in the future, I was saying to our runner, hopefully next year I'll just bite the bullet and actually get a professional mic. But we were trying to figure out how we could get our levels any better. If it sounds any better, let me know.
I
I could
think
just
that
start
should do.
screaming into it too.
That works too. Um, but to be honest, we can't hang with Bit Boy, so
That's
we'll
true.
chill with that one. Could be louder. Nexus, I think we're gonna have. Can you get by with this, or are we good? More, more, more. It sounds good in my headset. It's registering on the thing. I could try boosting real tech microphone a little more. All right, I
Check,
boosted a
check,
little bit in Discord or Twitch as well.
check,
I
check.
should
1, 2.
check, 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 check.
Check, check.
We could just start doing karaoke, and we'll do that as a mic check for 15 minutes, and then we start going. But yeah, I know a lot of people were screaming today because yesterday the entire board on S&P or the what is that screener you guys pull up was
Oh, the heat map.
heat map. Everything was red.
Yep.
Everything.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. I'm just kind of numb to it right now because I'm just still watching this chart and I'm just like, this is the order block that I've got eyes on, and it also happens to be the one Malifestro is looking at as well.
Yeah.
Plus, we got
Yeah.
the top signals, and it's like head and shoulders if you really want to get TA ish. But um, I don't know.
Uh, yeah. I've wanted this order block for a long time. I remember talking about it in Discord. Like after the resolution of the debt ceiling uh, earlier in the summer, maybe that was spring, a couple months ago. I was like, oh, they left this gap behind. We're gonna have to fill it eventually. It'd be really sweet if we could finally get it. So I've wanted this for a long, long time. This right here on ES on futures though is actually it's a little bit deceiving. And I was talking about this on Twitter. On ES, it's a contract rollover. The real gap was if you looked on SPY and SPX, you can actually see them a little bit better. So what was deceiving is everybody was saying the gap just filled yesterday. Well, it went a little bit deeper, and that's because the real gap was a little bit deeper.
Yeah. Have you seen the updated gaps tool that TradingView released? It
Is it just an indicator?
Yeah, it automatically does what you're doing now, and you can put little thresholds of how big the gaps are. It's it's pretty cool, and when they're filled, it stops printing them. Like it won't just keep printing them across the screen. It's pretty cool. I was playing
Okay,
it with the other day, and it's open source.
cool. Let's check it out. So, oh, TradingView actually makes it themselves.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
it's a
cool.
default
Okay.
one now. I started looking at the order block stuff, and I started playing with some tools, and that one popped up, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. It's well done. And it said it was updated, so I wasn't aware they even had one, so it may be new. But other people have asked me, is this really going to be Uptober? I'm I'm not feeling it, but maybe.
So I've been a big believer in seasonality. It's been strong.
It hits hard.
Yeah, it's been strong. This you can say over the last entire year. And let me see if I can find the the chart really quick. Like the
Oh man, it's your buddy Friendo.
hey, Friendo's good, good people. It's a good trader. Recommend following him. If you want to shill your Twitter in the chat, I don't think either of us would be too offended, would we?
No, we're good.
But yeah, where is it? One second. Do you this right here? Is this going to show up if I move it over? Are we seeing my screen right now or no?
I only see the S&P. What you can do is you can screenshot it and put the photo in TradingView.
Yeah, that's true. Could do that.
That's what I typically do.
Okay. So if we're looking at seasonality, which I think a lot of people have started to catch on to now, this wasn't as this was big alpha when a lot of people weren't paying attention to it. But if we were looking, what's kind of going to be deceiving about people saying it's October or September was terrible? Well, seasonality mid-September has a rally and then closes lower than it opened. So that's why September is bad compared to some of these other months where they do close higher than where they opened. So I think a lot of people got caught off guard as we were heading into mid-September. Season. We had OPEX happening. That was perfectly in line with where we began to draw down. And I think what's going to happen here is we could open up October really well, but we're going to double back in, sweep the lows likely, and then lift off. So we're looking at like October probably debates a little bit. If we're talking about like where we landed today, if we're going to begin to look optimistically, this was a lot of people's areas to look for, right? I think the 200-day is down here too, not too far off. Maybe we never touch it because so many people have their eyes. It's the boomer moving average. People love watching it. We could leave it untouched. I wouldn't be too shocked by that. But I would love to have 2 more weeks of us just like messing with people's heads as we open into October before we finally lift off.
So you're thinking staying in that range of like 4,300 to 4,250?
Yeah, say we come back up. Where's my paintbrush here? Say we come back up, sweep low, then move.
I know there's a lot of people wanting to bite at 4,200. Hot Pins in particular talks about it a lot. But I don't know. To me, we're falling pretty quickly. And we've already kind of broadened through that order block. I'd like to see it hold. I just know if we lose the order block, it's gonna get ugly. But we've only really taken like 2 days of interaction with it. I want to see what happens if we get a response and it pulls back up. Normally, what I want to see is something struggle when it hits an order block, and this thing went straight into it.
What time frame are the pivots on?
I can show it on my screen. I don't remember if it's because I've got the S&Ps. I've got them. I think it's higher time frames, and I've got them marked. Here, this is mine. Boy. This is the block I'm looking at. This is almost identical to the one Mally has. Let me see. Yeah, drop it just a hair, but that's the block. It's been like a magnet. We came down and kissed this one, and then we we bounced a little bit and went straight in. And we kind of had this weird fake out today where it went straight through, then bopped and tried to have kind of we almost closed the day green. It was kind of weird.
Yeah, what I do find pretty funny is, so prior to September opening pretty well, right? Yeah, before when August ended, it's Friday the 18th. People were already aiming for 420 and would have been happy if we were there now, but we went up and came down, and now the bear targets are getting lower and lower, and I do like to see that if we're
Yeah.
going to try to move higher.
I I'm
The
I'm
put
I'm
the put call ratio is looking pretty outrageous too. I think the put call ratio is reaching like year highs.
damn.
It's getting pretty expensive to be in puts.
I don't know. I'm really wanting to see what happens if it pulls back up and out of this. But if it breaks through, that's where I'm really kind of questioning what type of targets we're looking at. Because I don't. I mean, we start seeing those people that are talking like low threes, and I'm like, that's not impossible, but it's improbable, and
Well,
we'd
what I
be
just
like
find
Great
what I find so
Depression.
aggravating, yeah, what I find just so aggravating about people that when they make those targets, it's the same way we all feel about when a laser-eyed Bitcoiner pulls up a chart, looks on a monthly and looks for targets in 1 million,
Imagine the
right?
smell.
Yeah, imagine it's the same thing it's you look as stupid as they do when you start talking about we're heading towards depression, everybody's millions are going to die. Let's take it level by level. The outlook is not you're not going to crash 120% in 2 weeks.
Yeah. The other one is what's it? Hold on. Peter Zion. He's the other one where we should all be dead by now if you listen to the videos from like a year or two ago. But I am starting to pick back up on some of his videos in relationship to talking about like the
Mhm.
China's economy, and it's starting to get my interest. I know to take a lot more of his stuff with a grain of salt now, just kind of throttle it back what he's
It,
saying. But
yeah, he you got to remember he's a speaker, right? So and
yeah,
he
he's
does make a lot
sensational.
of yeah, he does exactly sensational. He makes a lot of jokes in his speeches. You can tell when I think there's hints when he's speaking about when he says outrageous things like um I don't know, I can't think of an
The wheat
example, but
shortage one was what he was really deep into, and talking about how this was going to be the last shipments of wheat out of Ukraine, and
yeah,
Russia or the European continent was going to have issues while importing food. People, and not to say they haven't, but not like he was talking about like burying bodies over it.
yeah.
But the other part is I am starting to pay attention a little more of him on the Russia conflict, because he makes some points there that aren't too sensational. It's actually more kind of based on what's really happening. So yeah, it's going to be a good rest of the year. We've got October, we've got elections, we've got the
Thank you for the ice cream. Gang, gang, gang.
Look, and it doesn't.
Slay.
I'm not. The thing is I haven't even really looked at charts over the past 2 days. Like I'm not. This is a level I've been looking for a long time, but it needs to convince me. So
yeah, yeah.
even I am okay with us not getting it up to October. I can wait. Um, but if you are interested in looking for an October, if you're in, if you've been looking for a decent drawdown, I think this is a legitimate place if you're a more active trader. Just right now for me, I haven't been.
Yeah.
My work's getting a little too busy, so I have to less time.
I'm kind of in the same position as you, and to me, just the glancing at like in general, just my general sentiment when I see the S&P kind of rolling over, I don't really get interested in like trading much at all, because it's typically only long, and when the S&P is showing weaknesses, like typically Bitcoin's not in a good place to try to get long, because it typically won't buck the trend. But right now, honestly, S&P's been dying, and BTC has literally just been going sideways. Like there's chop
Yeah,
for sure, but it's not nuking. Now maybe we get a
yeah.
delayed
Fa-
reaction. That
famous
sometimes
last
happens.
words are famous last words are always
Yes,
bit.
it's
Yep,
holding up. It's
it's
decoupled.
holding up so well.
It's decoupled, but I am also waiting, because people are trying to, like, this is what people are literally trying to trade, and it's literally, this is a BART, this is another BART, this was a mini BART, a upside down mini BART. There's two BARTs there, and they just literally BARTed today on like the 5 minute chart. Like they ran it up, and ran it straight back down. So I just tell people like chill out because you zoom out on this.
Oh, I saw
This
a
is
really
easy.
funny.
This is just a range. We're just
I saw
waiting
a
for
really
this to
funny
move.
chart. You know, the Wall Street psychology chart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody, so they pulled it down on the 5 minute and looked at today on Bitcoin, and it matched up pretty perfectly.
If you zoom
I
in
was
on the low
I
time frame
slept
Wyckoff,
I slept in today. I didn't even know that this happened. When I woke up and I started reading my feed, and it was like everybody was pretty euphoric, and
oh, and that's the thing
and
is
then,
like we're literally just gonna sit here like this. So this is the other thing I've been telling people like you got to get really good at being bored. This was over 2 months. This is gonna be over a month. Like
yeah.
these things take so long, and we're just sitting at a high altitude. So like if this thing breaks, we have the altitude to like swing low and go to 20K. Not what I want, but what I'm saying is that we lose these levels, especially if like S&P just keeps going down. This thing may eventually just go F it. We're following it, and it'll get really ugly. Now it's not what I want, but it's what I want to be like cautious of.
Yeah. So chemistry quiz asks about Powell speaking tomorrow. He does speak tomorrow, and I think that this this one is probably a good one to pay attention to. If he speaks, we came out of a hawkish FOMC. We want to see if his tone changes any a little bit. There is also a couple of numbers that come out. I can't remember. Like I think there's the GDP revision for Q2 comes out, and something else earlier in the morning. But with all of those back to back to back stacked on one day, I would typically, if we didn't come out of a dovish, if we didn't come out of a hawkish FOMC, I would be less concerned about these things. With all of them stacked up, and then at the close of the market, we have Powell speaking. I think that you're going to want to pay attention to these. So it's initial jobless claims, GDP revision, and then Powell speaks at 4 p.m. Eastern.
After markets are closed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm at the point where it's he had the rates at the point where he did put a dent finally in the inflation, and now it's rearing its ugly head. But we're looking at a lot of the inflation right now is just straight up oil prices messing with it, and you got DXY going on a rage. So this chart scares me because we're gonna hit something. This
Well,
is
what's
that
scarier
level.
is you shouldn't be paying attention to DXY. You got to keep your eyes on USD JPY, right? Because
Let me switch over to your screen. There you go.
yeah. So then the reason you want to do that is because
The Bank of Japan is amazing.
Well, so coming into September, I wrote a big thread, and so like I talked about this a little bit on the stream I was on last time, and some of the ideas were obviously wrong. Some of them were good. I think relatively like 50-50, it was a toss up. It was pretty decent. But one of the ones I talked about was I was expecting, I got you, like I talked about on the last stream, I got you baited by DXY. I did not think that we would break out of like that falling wedge pattern or whatever it was, or this Wyckoff accumulation looking. I know I've seen it like a lot of different ways, but I didn't expect it to continue. I expected it more sideways for the rest of the year because my anticipation was other central banks would have to out hawk the Fed, and the Fed was going to pause here, and that was not the case. The central bank of the ECB, the European Central Bank, has raised but made it very clear that this was the last raise, and basically alluded that there would be a cut probably sooner than the Fed. In general, the European Union's looking way more fragile than the U.S. markets are, and cuts would be more necessary, especially with Germany looking as weak as it is. The Bank of England, they paused. I can't remember, but they're in general the Bank of England and England, the UK itself has been looked pretty atrocious since Brexit. So not much has changed. They can continue to kind of kick the can. The US we raised, right? I don't think anybody or we didn't raise, but we alluded that there is going to be a raise in November, very very likely, based on what we saw, what we heard, what we saw on the dot plot. And higher for longer was definitely the signal that came through on the dot plot, right?
How
So
many dot plots are there above where we are now? Isn't it only one more dot?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look. But the BOJ, we were last week was going to be a huge wild card. They had a decision to make. They have a new central bank figure. Uh, Ueda is the new lead, and Kuroda was the previous bank chairman. And Kuroda was very loose. He was the implementer of the negative rates of YCC. And as Ueda came into office, into power, he signaled that by the end of the year, or at least by October, the Bank of Japan would start to signal that there would be an easing of those, or they would get off of the easing. They would begin to tighten and move away from negative rates and begin to expand the bans on YCC, yield curve control. And in this last meeting, they said they were going to stand pat, and that was pretty shocking. I don't think anybody expected that. So this somewhere in here in this yellow range that I have here, that was when Kuroda was just a month or two away from leaving office, and yeah, the Bank of Japan took some extreme measures to try to, ensure that the yen wouldn't continue to lose value against the USD, and it continued to draw down a little bit further. But this area, this goes all the way back to
98.
98, which is pretty. This is like Asian financial crisis, and further back into the 80s would be what was it when Nixon met, or no, that would be the 70s, right? So back here would be somewhere where Nixon had the Accords. What was it? I can't remember. Anyways, we have been creeping into this area more and more and more, and it's getting pretty frightening because everybody's on edge. If we start pushing that 152 area, are they going to do anything? It's going to really shock bond markets. It's going to shock equity markets. It's going to throw a heck of a lot of volatility in FX markets. This is a huge wild card, and they're not really giving a lot of signals any more than what we expected. We expected there to be some sort of correction and moving away from these policies, and we just haven't seen it. So nobody knows. We're in uncharted territories of sorts. It's getting. I think if there's any shock to the market that's going to happen soon, it's going to be coming out of Japan.
What steps do they have though to take other than rates, or do they have any other measures?
Yield curve control.
Jericho. How is that exactly implemented? I'm not terribly familiar with that one.
It's the Bank of Japan buys bonds. I would have to reread. I'm sure you can go on, Google it really quick. But I'm not going to do it justice. I'm not going to explain it well enough. I don't know the best terms to use. In my head it makes sense, but it would take me a lot more time to be able to explain it. But if you,
we're going to save that for your friend tech chat.
Sure. Yeah.
There you go.
I could definitely put it in there. But for the crypto guys, if you had been following the Arthur Hayes articles of the past year, he talked a lot about yield curve control. The United States would have to implement it, things like that. So that's probably where you became familiar with it, was through Arthur Hayes. So I'm sure to an extent, I think a lot of people have like a basic understanding of how it works. But they want to. It's a quantitative easing tools, and they have began to signal that they want to move off of those easing tools. Their inflation is looking a lot better. Their growth is looking better. They've had negative inflation for the Japanification for their aging demographics have looked terrible for multiple decades, and so it wasn't until this past year, maybe 2 years, maybe a year and a half at this point, where their inflation numbers began to look like it was showing promising results of growth. The Nikkei started to make tremendous leaps against the S&P. It was the first index of all of the international markets to begin to move upward. And so it's you can kind of say that Japan led this rally in some ways.
Speaking of the bonds,
yields are getting crazy. I don't know why everybody's trying to knife catch TLT.
I know it's like Maine is posting yield charts like at a rate of like what Dylan used to.
I don't know why people are trying to knife catch this. Like these people sound as crazy as Bitcoiners did after FTX. If you just shorted this, you would have made thousands of dollars instead. Like why did you waste your time trying to long this?
Yeah, the I think was it what's the kid what's the macroeconomics, the cat, is it KGB kitty?
Yeah, Casio Cat.
Yeah, Casio cat, but he's like like it sounds stupid when I say it like that, but he's like a real guy who's highly intelligent. But like he mentioned that, like he was like, I don't know why people keep trying to knife catch these bonds. He's like, the market is not acting like we're ready to bottom this stuff out, and the yields are just going insane. Like
Yeah.
you, the treasury yields are beating like DeFi rates right now. Like it's insane. And I don't, and that's the one thing too is I keep questioning is what breaks next? Is it, are we going to see mortgages break from the yields going nuts, or are we going to see banks start dropping out? I don't know.
Well, I've been trying to figure it out too. I've been reading a lot of analyst reports and sharing some thoughts in Frontech. But my expectation was, well, these regional bank issues would come up again, and I'm not getting a clean signal from any analysts on Wall Street that think that that is going to be like a for sure, or that's a definite yet. So the other flip side would be, what I don't know. I can't think of what's at stress right now. I'm not sure yet. I know a lot of people talk about credit card debt, but a lot you can spend hours looking at all those Fed charts that the Fed releases to find ones that fit your perspective.
Yeah,
Uh, but there's a lot of other ones that don't fit your perspective, and and if you on a wide enough time frame, a lot of it's just returning to trend prior to COVID, or at least prior to global financial crisis of '08. It does look bleak, but I think that those numbers can continue to stack up and look ugly for longer than a lot of people expect.
I agree with that. The one thing is that the thing that I've been looking for is how high can this go, and what are the likely like what are going to be the bodies left behind, because this can't go to like 30-40%, right? You know, like
No.
there's some
Yeah.
wall here. I know in the DXY chart, like we had this wall marked, and it was like we can't get past 118, 121 because there will be an intervention. Where that is for yields, I don't know yet, but that's kind of how I'm starting to look at this and starting to do research, like what you were saying. Skew 52 Skew's actually talking about it in his friend tech today. I need to go back and look at it some more. But I imagine it's going to be more bank related issues. I just don't know what sector it's going to be. But no one wants to. They can't get capital into any risk asset. Like there's no, you can lock in 5% almost on 30 years, risk free, but quote unquote, right? It's
Right.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I don't have a good answer. Like the yields are going sky high, and oil is almost $100 a barrel again. So like oil was going parabolic today, just straight up cranking.
Yeah. That's the best place to be trading. Is just energy in general. Like uranium looks great, still looks pretty good for how extended some of those names are. Oil looks, I think Exxon just made all-time highs.
Yeah, Exxon, like, so you talk about like people who have like who can execute oil field like effectively. Out of all the different vendors that like I've worked with for like over a decade, Exxon Mobil and like Oxy, they execute very,
Yeah.
very well. Shell's up in there
If,
too.
if anybody's looking to trade a bull market, it's been energy for the past couple of months.
Yeah, which means this was reaccumulation, right? So then we get to go hindsight and look at this range, but it's breaking out for sure.
Yeah, I didn't expect
This is one of
all-time highs.
those.
I thought I thought this was gonna be a little bit of distribution. I thought that gas or crude. I still do think this. I think that the majority of the move in crude is probably behind us. Like 100 is near. I estimate right now, moving target, but
Saudis are
I don't
squeezing the
know.
market, so it's that's the problem in my eyes too. Is I see what you're saying, but if the Saudis don't let up, this can roll. And then like remember it was rolling in like 2008 before everything crashed. So that's why I'm
No, no,
kind of like real weirded out.
but the price at the price at the tank hasn't, the price at the at gasoline hasn't changed too much in comparative to the runs that oil has made, crude oil has made.
It's starting to show up though. I think this past month, I've noticed the pumps are considerably up, but we've also been draining the SPR. So how much that SPR is actually suppressing the price, I don't know. But they're destroying that thing right now. I don't know if you have that chart, but what was it? They got rid of 50% of it in 12 months. It was
Yeah.
insane.
Do you know what the SPR is used for?
It's,
This I'm not. You don't have to answer it.
it's complicated. It's not what people think it is, but
It is not what people think it is.
it's not a wartime oil strategic
It's not a
reserve.
wartime oil
It's an
reserve either. That's right.
economic buffer.
So the question is I'm not. I don't. When I talk about politics and when I look at it, I really enjoy politics. I just look at it from an X's and O's perspective. I really don't care about what party. Like I'm honestly, I voted third party the last 3 elections. But my question is, and this could be, you don't have to answer. Do you think do you think that this was the proper way to use it? If it's not meant, it has been used in wartime scenarios, but obviously in the past times that it was used for wartime scenarios, that was because the invasion of Iraq and the Operation Desert Storm. In those cases, it makes sense, right? If the SPR is there to help facilitate and relieve the oil market from unexpected disruptions. If just using it from that definition, does that fit properly for this scenario that we've been through with Ukraine, that we've been through with Saudi Arabia and OPEC putting stresses on oil? Do you think that for those reasons that we've seen over the past year and a half, does that apply to being able to drain the SPR as much as we have?
The rates at which the SPR has been drained, I think it's more political.
It's certainly more political because
the midterms that they had, they cranked it up.
And it's only the president that has the authority to release the SPR. It doesn't have to go through the Senate. It doesn't have to, like, it's all executive power. So yes, in any case that it is used, it is always political.
That's where I've seen it most. And in my opinion, I think they're trying to keep the price at the pump down up until elections. I think is what they're doing, but I don't think they have enough oil to do it. So in my opinion, if you're using it properly, you use it to buffer the market, but you also have a way to throttle it back down to where it doesn't crash the market right now. Right now we have prices of oil going at $95 and we're draining this thing at parabolic rates. And we won't make it to the end of 2024 at these rates. Like I don't think we got 6 months left if you keep going at these increased rates they're doing. So in my opinion, they're going to do it till we get to elections, and then they're going to be out of oil. And then once the elections are done, they're not going to care. And they need to kind of like refill the thing. Cause like Biden even said he's willing to run it to zero. And that really upset some people. It's not a good look. I mean, even if it is what it's for, like that's the intent is to buffer, but if you completely eat up your buffer, your market's exposed to the shell shocks, right? So that's what kind of that's my take on it. It may not be the right one, but it's I think they're overusing it as a defensive tool from what it original take. But let me hear what your thoughts are on it.
Oh, yeah. Draining it as much as they have, no. Using it for how the market was disrupted by Ukraine, yes.
Yeah. I don't know.
I do think that the OPEC cartel is, and I talked about this last time I was on stream, is kind of using this as a tool to make the Saudi Aramco stock release, or the release that they want to put onto the market of equity. I think that this, from their same side, is political. I think that Saudi Arabia does want to be able to buffer themselves politically so that they can, build as much of a treasury to get MBS through the future, especially if the U.S. is less interested in being involved in the Middle East. Like, I think that they see the writing on the wall, right? So they want to be able to have either put pressure on the U.S. to deliver a deal where they would get the same sort of protections as Australia or Japan, or be prepared for a world where they have to defend themselves against anything that Iran would want to do. Those two being kind of the what would you call it?
Those are kind of the powers in that area.
The power, the regional powers. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're talking nuclear now, and it's like, oh, it's gonna.
Have you looked at any other crypto charts besides BTC?
I've been watching Ethereum and Bcash personally.
Yeah, tell me about Bcash. I know some people were looking at it. I heard Donald
Bcash started
talking about
going
it today.
wild ago. Bcash was going wild for this run, and I never really saw a good reason why. I knew you were talking about it was going to be used on some type of listing or something a while back, but no one else ever talked about it or hyped it up. They were just like casually. Bcash went, I think, over 100%. Yeah, 200% run. I tried shorting it because I hate Bcash and it ate me up. It just kept going.
Yeah. Nexus brought up MKR. MKR has been a good chart. TRB got nuked today.
But if you go look at it today, it pumped hard. It was one of the only things like moving because most alts aren't out moving Bitcoin unless it's a really, really low cap. Like Ethereum has no volatility. Like it's just going sideways. We can look at Maker. And I'll switch over to your screen real quick. Let me see Maker.
No, you don't have to switch over to my screen.
Maker. Yeah, Maker's screaming. Albeit Maker was all time high. Yeah, Maker was like $6,000. So it's working its way back up. Yeah, there's that heat chart. I'm gonna switch
Kanto. Yeah, Kanto did some weird shift today too. Kanto's been weird. So there was some sort of change that they did, right? Like they're becoming an L2 or something. I think maybe Gate.io.
Yeah, there's not too many exchanges that have that.
But
Battletoad the Wet Sprocket. That's a cool name.
Something happened down here where I didn't read the article, and maybe Friendo's still here. You could tell us. But they became like something changed the fundamentals, and they just rocketed up like outrageously.
Hey guys, it's the devs are on it. It's gonna be bullish. I forgot who it was. There was somebody who was. It was a random day where Zcash was up and like not many other things were, and someone did an announcement that the devs are aware. They're working on it. They will assure you that price will be back down within 24 hours.
Have you looked at WorldCoin?
Nope. I've been watching the memes though with the eye orb. I mean, that's WorldCoin, right?
This is one of the best looking charts in crypto.
Bullish on the eyes. Please tell me you use 8-hour charts.
Not often. I have 8. I have some random ones in here for cloud.
Shout out Carpe. Yeah. That's one of those ones where my eyes tell me there's a whale in control that's defending like it's not a channel walk yet, but you can see like there's an arc where someone bites at a very predetermined level because they're running out of liquidity. TTF. Oh, we're going natural gas.
So Dutch natural gas is trending.
How Dutch is Dutch natural gas?
It's the only natural gas contract for Europe.
Okay, so it's traded outside of that. The reason I ask is like Shell, Royal Dutch Shell, like they're getting sued like into oblivion um, about like carbon emissions and stuff like that. So I was like, man, I don't know if that country would tolerate this, but yeah, winter's coming.
So if this holds, and natural gas, the Henry Hubs, this is the American contract, made a huge gap today.
Hello, UNG.
And UNG hardly moved.
What?
They had a
That's what all
one,
the-
they had a 1.5%
that's what all the-
day. That's not bad.
That's what all the crypto miners are focused on, is harvesting all the natural gas. It's not getting pipelined back from all the land wells.
Yeah, they migrated to ZK. Okay, this is Kanto. Yeah, weird shit for sure. So I honestly, like I said at the start of the stream, I haven't been looking at charts too much except for SPY and then looking at some energy like UNG, natural gas, oil, Dixie.
We should be
Outside
focusing
of-
on orange juice.
Orange juice has been okay. So do you drink orange juice?
Yes.
'Cause I've been thinking about this. Do you think do Zoomers drink orange juice? Who's drinking so much orange juice? Who's still drinking orange juice today?
It's used
I
in
don't drink-
cleaner
I don't drink
products,
orange
but
juice.
surely that's not anywhere near the level. It has to be consumption for food products. Nexus drinks it. Olive oil. I don't drink olive oil. I did that once and it was very bad.
Yeah.
I don't know. I assumed it was issues with the farms, but like olive oil's running. Those are more hardy than orange trees. I'm just making that up, but I don't know. But orange juice literally looks like crypto in like 2017. Visa. I consume 2 oranges a week. I'm doing my part.
So I think it's a supply issue with orange juice. Although imagine
Could be
if we
labor
actually
based too.
That's true.
It's not highly automated.
So oranges are harvested in Florida when? In like November? Late
I
October?
don't know. I know Texas has a bunch of them in South Texas as well, but they don't harvest them in the winter.
There was a massive disease with orange juice. I did not know that.
Playmaker with the alpha. What was the disease? Orange tree diseases, Florida.
If you're looking for some good, this is not financial advice. I'm going to preface that. If you're looking for some good equity plays, if you're looking to maybe look for some puts, car part makers or makers, people that make the parts for the cars, with the UAW being in strike.
Are we gonna talk Denso again?
You may want to look at that chart. Pull it up. I thought that UAW would be closer to negotiation with at least Ford. Ford sound pretty promising. They made a deal with their Canadian union. So they have I think they have 3 or 4 plants in Canada, maybe 2, and they have 2 in Mexico, and the rest of them are in the US, right? So the they struck a deal with their Canadian counterparts, and that looked very promising for UAW. UAW started to signal that they were farther along in talks than they were with GM and others. But after Biden came out this week and showed up on the picket line supporting the UAW workers, I think they kind of got more dug in. And I am expecting this.
They 100% are.
I'm expecting this strike to go farther than we expect.
I do too.
This definitely goes through October now. So if we're looking to buy, if we're looking for downside on things, I think we need to start looking for car part. And on top of that, there's a benefit. There's there's flip side to this, another.
CarMax is going to go crazy.
Not well. I don't know about that, but
Used
where I'm
car
thinking
prices
is
have skyrocketing over the UAW. The auction prices are up.
yes, but where I'm actually taking this is there was been some figures and metrics that are coming from the Fed about or and other Wall Street analysts about luxury items seeing less purchases. The consumer is less interested in buying luxury goods. Well, if you think about car parts, you think about cars, you think about the union strike, a luxury item that uses kind of the same pieces, boats. So maybe marine and boat companies are also something to be thinking about.
I don't know if a lot of those are publicly traded though.
Oh, I know I know that there's a good handful of them because I remember looking at the hurricane portfolio that I was looking through, and I a couple of those were marine and boat makers.
What specifically? Like, because the problem is with boats, if you can hit certain companies that do commercial, and commercial's not going to slow down. It's not a luxury item. But if you're talking like fishing boats, I can't think of a fishing boat ticker that's public, but you
Where
could probably get the outboards like Mercury Marine.
it doesn't have to be the boat maker. The parts are likely from coming from the same maker. It doesn't have to come from the assembler, the boat or the car maker. You should be looking at the part maker. So
I
that's
don't
one
know
thing
who
that's on my
makes.
that's one thing on my radar. The other one is we're coming into earnings season. Um, Software as a service company, SaaS, got has been really beaten down. I'm sure you've heard a lot of people talk about it. Like they talked about the SaaS market kind of being in a already going through a recession on like the All In podcast, I think this week. Those tech names, those mid cap, small cap tech names, coming into earnings post like the big boys. So those your Datadogs and your Snowflakes, and anything that's in that same market cap, you may want to be looking at and putting on a watch list as we get closer to those earnings reports for either upside or downside. I'm not sure yet, but we're coming into earnings season, and I think we need to begin to think about possibilities, ideas, brainstorming. Um, this could be one of the only decent quarters we have left. If we're expecting a recession, the definition of quote unquote like two down quarters. This is we're coming into if we're aiming for recession by the second half of 2024, which is currently moving target. This could be that last decent quarter. Yeah, Mew dropping despite the downplay, but Mew also kind of played right into the spot you would want it to. So after hours, it dipped right into the gap that was left unfilled from August. I want to see where it opens. If we can recome to this trend line, this could keep on continuing to form this wedge.
I'm forward testing a bot on MU right now. It moves so consistently.
Thank you for the ice cream. Gang, gang, gang. Slay.
Thank you for the follow. Shout out Campai Pandas. What is MU?
They're a press. They make semiconductors.
I mean, man, the other part of if you're thinking this is the last quarter, I almost want to think ahead and like what are going to be the companies that struggle going into Q1. I mean, we're not really talking about layoffs, but honestly, with the auto strike, so back to like your point of like the auto strike stuff, like go look at like GM is the one that's I think going to be vulnerable.
Yeah, GM for sure because they're the farthest from a deal.
Yeah. So it's Fiat Chrysler, which is one company, GM and Ford. Ford was actually making some concessions, so there was actual progress. GM and Fiat did not, and then the Biden walking the picket lines really emboldened them. His numbers are terrible in the polls right now, so he's really trying to get the union vote next year.
Yeah.
But
Well, yeah.
they
That
want
that
they want
and those.
32-hour work days and 40% pay rates. And
Yeah.
did you read the small line items they want?
No.
If a plant gets shut down due to not being profitable, the employees will be paid to do community service at their normal salary rate. So if say they go and make an EV plant and it dies, or the cost of like what Playmaker says Chevy Sparks go to $100,000 due to a 32-hour work week and a 40% pay rate. Like if they shut down the plant, GM still has to pay them. So the only way I think they can get out of a union deal is if they file bankruptcy. So GM may be going into a bankruptcy, and then maybe the government comes in and swoops and saves them again. I don't really know, but I I don't know how like the demands are so out there. I don't know how Chevy trucks exist at that point. Like they're already expensive, and if the labor goes up 40%, they're doing 4-day work weeks, and they get paid like if the plant gets shut down. Like I don't know how GM can even swing those numbers.
Do you know or remember what car companies took PPP from during COVID? Like they did, some of them took loans, right?
COVID, I don't know. I know during the auto bailout, I think Ford was the only one who didn't take it.
Yeah, but that was 08.
That
I'm talking about,
predates. Yeah, I
yeah, I'm talking about the
don't.
last one.
That's hard to say though, because the smaller divisions could still get it, but I don't know. I don't know offhand.
Okay.
Maybe you do, but
I don't know. I was trying to look for that yesterday because I came across an old article, something about Ford, Trump being mad. So I think that there was a loan at some point to Ford, and it was never repaid in full.
that's most of those loans though.
Well, all the car makers in 08, they paid them back. So I think there was another set of stimulus for the car companies in COVID that I'm just remembering.
I don't know. I think, but in 2008, I think the government got GM took the bailout, but GM got way more government ran. Um, they're highly much more controlled, but I don't know. That's something to look
Anyways,
into.
something to think about. I think that there's still some of those car companies, some of those car makers that still have those loans. So that's maybe that's the political angle for why Biden and the administration is being very supportive of the UAW, because those car companies never came back and provided those loans.
There was another one I saw. There was an analysis looking at like the stock returns of the major car companies, and I forgot which one of them. One of them was mad. He's like, why is the GM stock like not valued at this blah 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 for our market, all this other stuff?" And the guy says the market thinks everyone's going bankrupt except GM or Tesla and Toyota. He says that's the
Yeah,
only
yeah,
two
because they're
markets.
non-union. They're the only two that are non-union.
I thought that was really interesting because he's like, Toyota they think is going to survive, and they think Tesla is, which is get interesting.
Well, and Tesla has like a weird angle too with their AI spin. If the Dojo, I was talking about this with Mal in the Discord. Um, I don't know enough about it, but they sound like they there was a headline yesterday, sometime this week, that they struck a deal with TSMC to provide their semiconductors for their AI driven initiative, and it'd be very specific to what they're doing. Obviously, I think, in all honesty, I think it's just so that they could properly gear up self-driving cars. But does Twitter benefit from it, or X? Does
I
does
always see it as
SpaceX
an
benefit from
extension.
it?
Like
Are they going to be able to be running their AI on top of these data centers that are built on these special things that Tesla's making?
there's no way
I
it's not.
I think that's just something interesting. I don't know what the game plan is or what, but like, maybe 10 years down the road, that in itself gets spun off into a company.
No, they're so I know. I think I was talking to Esk about it. They were doing huge. They were building an ungodly sized data center for AI, and I was like, I was kind of taken back by it. I was like, what the fuck? What are they going to use it for? But you were saying is the same thing as like he was saying that they were going to use it for the automated driving, and I said the automated driving is going to do the calculations in the cloud, like not in the actual unit of the car. Like I
Yeah,
couldn't. I had a hard time with that. I mean, maybe
there's
it
more
was
power. There's more power in the data center.
there is, but the lag of you going 80 miles an hour,
But
2/10 of a second matters. You know what I'm saying? Like that's I don't know. Or you have the internet drop out on something that's an autonomous vehicle. Like that's not.
well, that it's used. It would just piggyback off of Starlink.
Yeah, but Star. That's the thing though. Like if you're realistically, if you're going 75 miles an hour, you don't have the luxury of latency in the calculations because it has to transmit the data. It's a lot of data to the center. The center has
Well,
to crunch it and then deliver it back.
yeah, I don't think that the self-driving, I think that is handled on the car, but you would want all the data collection. Yes, you would want all the data collection and from everything, and then process that, send that over to the data center, process that, improve your algorithms that would improve your self-driving car experience, things like that. So I think that that's the reason.
That's a good one. I know the amount of data they collect off the cars is insane. People don't realize how much those cars like map the world.
Yeah.
That would be cool. I don't know, but I assume the same thing though. Like if they're building a giant AI data center, like there's no way they're not using that for SpaceX as well. If not, they they can take the lessons learned of how to build a similar one for cheaper. I'll switch back to your screen.
No, don't right now.
Oh, super secrets for actual live driving. Yeah, just from a latency thing, I would struggle with that unless it's like a dual redundant system. There's a base AI driving or locally, and then maybe a supplemental. But I don't know.
Playmaker asked 46 or 42 on SPX, and like it'd be great if I could get 40, if we could get 42. But like I said at the start of the stream, so many people are watching that at the same time. Like maybe we don't get it. If it gets there, what if we just blow through it? Like why do we have to only touch it?
That's what scares me right now. Is it's not interacting with the order block in a way that makes me think it's really going to be firm support. It's a subtle read. It's just normally what I want to see is whales move it into an order block and see another whale show up and try to fight it. And they normally just won't go through a pivot or a particular order block. But
The
I
the
haven't
I
seen
think
much fighting back lately. But also the news is kind of crap too. So I think it's gonna. Probably won't know the answer until next week.
one moment. The Bank of America's CTA model, like full unwind level for SPX. So CTAs are buying regardless, whether the market's moving aggressively up, moving aggressively down. But at some point there's like a stop loss that gets kicked, right? And their level, their CTA model level, is for, I think the last time I read it, it was 41.76. So if you swept into that, you probably see a decent reaction.
Why would they broadcast that?
Well, it's why? What do you mean? It's an analyst report.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was having flashbacks of Caroline. 4170. I don't have a pivot there, but I could see because that's going to nip into the.
No, I think it's this, isn't it? No, where is it? Let me move it.
I got a pivot at 4190, which is real close to it, but that's the top of the previous rally before we kind of had this move. But you have to look at it at like 12
touch
hours.
here. I mean, it's a pretty clean level.
Yeah. All I know is if you go below 4, it's gonna, I don't know, it's gonna get nasty. People start panicking again because that's what really happened last time. We broke through 4,000 and all hell broke loose. But I don't, I don't think we're
The
going back
base,
to
the base,
36.
the base case should be a clean and obvious retest.
Yeah, and that retest is the 42 to 43. But if I had to, I'd say 41 next because there's a double pivot there. But
41.76.
yeah,
It's either here right now. I think there's like a TD9 on today that printed. So if it's not the 9, like me and Mel have been talking about TD9s a lot lately, you could print a couple more candles, get the TD13. That would probably take you to 41.76.
I just don't think it's going to be a screaming reaction to rally back.
It doesn't have to be, but we want
Yeah,
to play.
yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm just saying is like this is we could get to those levels and then we're gonna go sideways into 2024,
Yeah, totally.
and then maybe they do a rate cut in what, June?
I don't remember off the top of my head after it changed. I haven't memorized it yet.
It's pretty far out.
The on
I mean, this,
NDX,
yeah,
the CTA level is, I have it already printed here, 14.121. Why though? I don't. It doesn't look as clean to me. I don't know why. I don't know why this is the case. I don't. This order block.
maybe.
I don't know. Breaker. I don't know what. I don't know exactly why that is what they're looking for.
And who did you say that was?
This is Bank of America.
They're wanting that one as well. We're also getting weird reads from JP Morgan. I don't like when Diamond starts talking about the market's not ready for 7%. Well, they're also not ready for 12%, bud. It's.
He also said we were supposed to. The market had a hurricane coming for it, and that was 8 months ago. So he was clearly wrong there.
Yeah. My gut tells me they actually follow their plan. I think they're going to hold rates around where they are now, maybe get a little bit of a bump. Albeit, I think if they bump again later this year, I think it's really going to spook markets. Whether that's sustained, I don't know, but that's going to scare some people if he paused and then started again. Even though he was talking about that back in like May of this year, like this is the plan. We're going to get these rates to a level, sit back and see what happens. Well, now he's done that, but markets aren't really doing what he needs yet. So I guess the real question is what happens if we hold for another 8 months of these rates? Like where does it go? Because eventually holding rates this long is really going to start squeezing businesses, like specifically like smaller businesses, not just like big banks and stuff like that.
There's this theory I heard a long time ago, and I've been meaning to try to find it. It's by what I'm when I first heard it, I was like, oh, is this a written article? Is this some sort of study that happened? And essentially it was, if you're looking at fourth turning is a really popular term right now, like generational changes. And one of them was during the Greenspan era and the quantitative easing that was done during 08 and beyond. That was necessary because the boomers were entering past or getting into a point where the millennials weren't old enough to work. They were going, their parents, the silent generation, had been beyond retirement. They were the only working generational workforce at that time. So it was very important for them to stimulate the market to get by up until the point where millennials would begin to enter the workforce, then establish themselves and form houses, build families. Now that we are at this moment, the idea is that the Fed is more scared about what happens after that, the end of this cycle. So when millennials are in the same position as their parents were in 08, what happens 10 years, 20 years, 15 years down the road, whatever, when they are the only working workforce and their kids aren't old enough. And on top of that, millennials don't exist in the same numbers outside of the U.S. And this is a Peter Zion thing. I know if you guys are familiar, you probably heard it from him too. But by numbers, millennials are more of an anomaly in the U.S. and don't exist in the same huge numbers outside the U.S. So the millennials would be the only like strong workforce down the future. The Fed needs to have all the tools available to them to be able to get ready for that. So that's the reason to hike and to keep and to hold higher for longer, having the tools available to them so that they could cut in a future cycle.
How far out is that though?
Like we're talking like another decade or so. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I was the last Zion one I was watching about. He was specifically talking about this aspect of the demographics in China specifically. He's like they don't have the youth to do any of the manufacturing, and then they said even then, the cost at which they're having to pump up their effectiveness with like subsidizing and stuff like that. They said like the labor rates are just blowing out, and it's not effective anymore.
Labor rates in China have been too expensive for a long time, so this would have been an issue that we would have gotten to eventually. It just COVID kind of accelerated a lot of these factors.
Yeah.
But in Discord I've been talking about like China probably suffers until their central bank provides stimulus to the consumers. And I read recently you probably should never expect that because they don't have, by the population numbers, by the demographics, they can't even build a domestic consumer that would be able to supplant all of the exports. Like they wouldn't even be able to be self-sufficient. They don't have enough people to build a consumer demographic that could keep them elevated and like keep their markets healthy.
Yeah, Peter Zion's like flat out saying like China's done. He's like they won't make it through this.
I don't know if they will or won't, but I think that there is an exaggeration to that. And I say this because China doesn't just make your action figures or your computer enclosures or your plastic molded whatever. Like they a lot of it is refinement of raw materials, your metals, your gases, your rare earths. A lot of that is done in China. So even if we are trying to disentangle from China, the U.S. is trying to disentangle from China, it's never going to be a full decoupling. And a lot of those metals are very necessary for the West to, if we wanted to electrify and be heavily on electric vehicles and move off of fossil fuels, that you're going to need those rare earths, those raw precious metals. And the refinement methods just don't exist anywhere else except for in China. So it's the disentanglement that that we imagine might happen, that a lot of people talk about in the media. It's probably a bit overblown. It's going to take a long time for the West to find any other place to go to provide those refined materials.
Another Russia conflict as well complicated that. There was quite a few things. Russia was the main producer of, I believe it was more steel based, not exotic metals, but that as well as fertilizer. But I could see China picking that one back up. But no, you're right. Especially like they're not scared EPA wise to do a lot of that stuff too, because a lot of that rare metal stuff is quite dirty to make, unfortunately. Right. I wonder. I know there used to be some of it in Mexico, but I think that their emissions actually kicked a bunch of it out of their country. But speaking of metals, though, what are your thoughts on gold taking a nuke today? Is that not supposed to be the safety? Costco sells it now.
Well, okay. So I was, yeah, that's funny. I saw somebody mention, I think that you can only get it online. I don't think they have it in their stores, right?
I don't know.
If you
I
order,
looked it up today just to see what it was because my boy T was saying, can you get it with their labeling? What's the Costco brand?
oh,
Um,
Kirkland.
he wanted to. He's like, I only want the gold bars if they're Kirkland labeled.
So I was thinking about gold today, and I was thinking about like when we were looking at USD JPY earlier. I wanted to look at the correlation or comparison, like timeline, what happened. I remember gold and silver nuking way before the whole Kuroda intervention on the Japanese yen happened. So maybe we're just mimicking all these same things that happened last year. Gold nukes, Japan intervenes, Dixie reaches its peak. Because I remember that being the domino of those events. And maybe that's just what is playing out right now. Metals nuke, Japan will intervene, and Dixie tops.
Yeah, something has to. My read of how Dixie was interacting with that support level, I thought it was going to pull back out, and it is now. But the point from here is, from here I don't know where it goes other than it can't get to 118. Something has to break it. Maybe that's what it is. Like you said, that's a good theory there.
There is, I think it's just about in its cloud on Dixie. There's,
Mally showed up late. I'm tempted to time him out.
so it's maybe a week or 2 weeks it completes its edge to edge too. Standard settings.
Huh. I don't know.
Would that be?
I mean, for the previous run up, we have a pivot at 109 and 115. So, well, obviously the 115 is the all time, but maybe 109. Maybe we get a higher low. I mean, a lower high.
Oh, could be. Yeah.
Because that'll give you the quote
Sorry, you're
unquote
talking about
softest landing. Yeah, if we rally back up to like 109 and then that's it. Like it falls back off and then we have a recovery, but it's
something's going to give on the central banks, and I don't know what it is. And I want to say it's going to be the Bank of Japan that throws us a wild card. That's my biggest concern right now.
I wonder how much they talk.
Oh, they talk all the time. Definitely.
So how would it be a well? I don't know. Like shock markets, but maybe not shock the Fed, but the Fed will have to back up.
The central banks they don't want to kill markets, but they do like to ease exuberance. But they don't want to outright nuke markets. So and I harped on this so many times back when everybody was getting very interested in looking at the FedWatch, the CME FedWatch tool, where rates are going to be in the next meeting. And that thing, as you get closer and closer, and especially when you get to the blackout period, it's very spot on. The Fed doesn't want to shock the markets; they just want to set expectations.
That's what I always butted heads with is the Darth Mauls we get on the days of like the FOMCs, and Jerome would come out and do exactly what he said he was going to do 3 or 4 months ago, and I agree with you. The market, it's weird though. It's like the market wants to be hectic, like the market wants to be crazy volatile on FOMC days, but Jerome's not trying to do that. He's not trying to shock the market. He definitely wants certain things to happen, but he doesn't want to do it overnight, just because of the ripple effects. But oh boy, we got that Bank of Japan wild card. ETF decisions on Bitcoin coming up. I liked Pentoshi's
No,
post.
they were all kicked. They were Oh, you're talking about.
No, Pentoshi's post talking about like we've got like 100 days before it has to be approved, essentially, or like they can't kick the can down the road anymore. Maybe that's true. I don't know, but it's the Penguin. I'm gonna listen.
I got blocked by him.
How?
I made a joke about how he was shilling Merit Circle, and then like the next day he released the Merit Circle NFT, the Penguin NFT,
Yeah.
because I said something. Oh, like I was in somebody's replies. They were saying how Pentoshi kind of shows a lot of garbage, and I I think I like his charts. I was just making a funny joke, so I don't care that I got blocked. I just didn't expect it, but it is what it is.
He had a
But
good post where he was talking about.
when everybody was talking about that today, I was like, what are we talking about? I can't even see it. I have no idea what he said. So that's the reason I bring it up.
You got to get the Doppel alts. Got to figure out which one those are. Like, no, he was basically saying like they're going to kick this down to it's like 110 days. So it's kind of interesting if you look at the timelines because it's going to be next year and it's what the Fed really does or what Gensler really does. I think is up in the air. He doesn't seem to give two f's about what he's supposed to be doing. Even like he was getting threatened today to get subpoenaed. He's not complying with the request for judicial or the Senate. What is it called? Investigation, whatever where they're asking for certain documents to get released and he's not turning over anything. But long story short, they're saying like they're bound to make a decision within like 110 days. There's a certain specific date where it's like they either have to say no or yes. And once they say that, like the court's basically going to get them if they say no. It's kind of like my take on it, but I don't know. But what's interesting though is like it's 100 days out. It's like 110 days out from that timeline. The halvening's like 220 days out. So halfway between now and the halvening, there's going to be the damn ETF decision. So imagine we get the ETF decision approved 3 months, 4 months before the Bitcoin halvening. Like it's going to be such a ridiculous pump, and then it's going to have to pull back and resettle. It's setting up to do all that while the S&P is kind of going to, like you said, a recession. I don't know. It's kind of the timing wise, it's getting interesting. Because we've had so many of the halvening events where everything pumps into it and then it dumps. I mean, even Litecoin went up crazy run for their halvening and then literally retraced 50% and technically halved. So I don't know. It's interesting though. It's the court. My opinion is he's gonna make the courts decide, not him, and I don't know why. Because he's gonna hang his hat on that legacy.
Yeah, I don't know what the game plan is. I really don't.
Have you read the Grayscale tweets?
No, I don't think I have. What do you mean?
You can, if you read the Coinbase and then the Grayscale tweets where they talk about the SEC decisions and the court rulings and stuff like that, they're underhand kind of saying that SEC is unwilling to talk to them. Period. Wow. All of this posturing when Grayscale says that, and especially Armstrong will go off on it, and he'll say like we are more than willing to work forward with the SEC. We want to get to work now. Blah blah blah. They're basically saying that like SEC is not returning their phone calls. So I think all this is just flat out going to go straight to court, but which it has on on a few levels. But I mean, you got to realize like BlackRock's only lost one ETF listing in its entire history. Like it's not going to take another L here. So how they do it, I don't know. But I'd imagine eventually the courts have to step in. But I don't know. You also got to realize we could get the Ripple case finalized as well this year or next year to finally settle the issues of the 2017 run, right?
Yeah. Oh, didn't Library Token don't they have their what's it called when you what's the term I'm looking for when you challenge the ruling?
Oh, the appeal?
Appeal, yeah. I think they have their appeal starting too.
I didn't even know they were getting. I don't even know what that coin is.
We talked about this before. It's the old. It's gonna be like a YouTube alternative. People try to peg it. This was like 2016 or something. People try to peg it to PewDiePie having ownership in it.
Man, I haven't heard from him in a long time.
But they were the first SEC target before Grayscale, before Ripple. Well, they might have been after Ripple, but This was before a Ripple decision. They lost, and a lot of people speculated, well, they're just targeting the project's dead, right? They likely very don't have a treasury, so they lost. But apparently, they have enough money left in reserves to bring the challenge.
That's interesting. Or other people are willing to fund it, I think is part of that. What's up, Hot Pins? We were talking about you earlier. No, I think that was definitely the case with Ripple. I think they hit Ripple and attacked them and didn't realize the amount of A game that Ripple, as bad as Ripple is, or whatever, however you want to take it. I'm not bullish on their company, but they brought a legal game on a level the SEC wasn't ready to handle, and they've been getting their butt whooped, frankly. So maybe we get that precedent where XRP actually beats the SEC. I don't know. Grayscale's eventually going to get there as well. Grayscale's making headway, and Grayscale has the treasury to do it. I wanted to say, was it Armstrong or was it maybe Jesse Powell was offering legal funds or access to like their lawyers to help fight some of those smaller crypto groups?
Oh, maybe. Hey, speaking of Kraken, bringing stocks. You hear this?
I saw that today. Hasaka made a meme about it. I'm all for it. Like, at this point, I think everyone on the crypto side should quit asking for permissions and just start doing stuff because they're not getting regulatory permissions. That's kind of the pivot that Armstrong took. He's basically said, F it, we're going to do it live, see you in court.
Do you know who they partnered with? Was their broker or anything? Or
I saw the Hasaka meme. That's it today. I've been bowed up. But no, I'm all for it, and they should do it. And why not? Like, we all want like crypto on like Robinhood. Why not just have stocks on Kraken? I mean, frankly, their servers are much better in my opinion because they run on markets with way more volatile that never sleep.
Yeah,
on way different protocols. Stocks should be easy. I don't know. I'm real bullish on Kraken, so.
I didn't expect them to be alive still, so it's cool to see.
Have you tried Kraken lately?
Yeah, I've been on their app. It's a lot different. Yeah, it looks nice.
Yeah, Kraken Pro GUI is amazing.
Yeah, I see like people sponsored by them. Yeah, their tools look cool and they're great.
Hasaka was trying to buy their they were going to discontinue their market analysis.
Yeah, what was
side website? I forgot what it was, but like In Silico Research offered to buy it as well. They're like, dude, don't kill this. And then finally,
Crypto Watch.
I think that's it. Jesse was like answering their DMs about it. So Hasaka's a Kraken user, right? No, it's flat out. I tell people like there's not too many exchanges you can get anymore. Always work with an exchange that you can actually sue in your home country. But flat out, Kraken fees are half of what Coinbase fees are. Like Coinbase fees market buying will eat you alive long term. Especially that Coinbase Prime, the volume is I think like $6,000 or $10,000. And that's not 10 grand of fees. That's 10 grand of like volume. So like just a few market buys and sells, like you're past the free, what they do, quote unquote, fee list if you do the subscription for them. I think it's Prime. But I set up a Rainbow Trends affiliate account with Kraken just to do it for fun. I never implemented it, but I've got the access for it. But their affiliate program's capped. You can only make a certain dollar amount, which isn't much, and then you're done. So that's why you never see any Kraken affiliates on Twitter. Like you can onboard, and I think you can make like $1,500 worth of kickbacks on the affiliate ref link, and then they don't ever pay you again.
Regulatory reasons?
I don't know. I've never seen a Coinbase ref link. Have you? I've never seen a Kraken one flat out, but I saw that I set up a Kraken corporate account, and then I saw that they had the affiliate account, so I went ahead and started applying for that as well, and set it all up. And I was just at that point, I was just going to do it so that I could flex on Twitter on other people that I was the only Kraken affiliate in the entire crypto Twitter space, just to
Yeah.
like throw down. So I did it for the laughs, but I never executed it. I probably need to. But did you see the coin fessions this week on the Binance affiliate?
No.
Someone spent $3,000 on Google ads for Binance,
Yes.
but he made the link his own affiliate account, and he made
I've heard this
sixty
before.
thousand dollars before they shut him down.
So when you do a crypto confession, do you have to be the source, or
I've
is
never
this
done it. I
somebody
don't
just
know.
retelling? Is this somebody just retelling a story? Because I've heard this story before by somebody else.
It was recently, and I know 9K's server posted it up, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's unbelievable. It's like, what a game.
Yeah. I think it's some OG from crypto Twitter or some like that actually did this and made major cashola.
Speaking of that, what do you think of CZ 2024?
I don't know. 4.
He's I'm really curious. Like, I doesn't wait. Didn't the Department of Justice have to do the announcement last week? Weren't they going to charge Binance and unseal some stuff as well as Binance
Oh
International?
yeah, something. Yeah, I think something got unsealed. I think it ended up being nothing.
Nothing.
But because we constantly see that something's going to be unsealed, and it's a nothing burger. I know so many people, Twitter accounts that post though. Here's the economic events and things to look out for in crypto over the week, and a lot of times it will be that same thing over and over again, and it ends up being nothing for Ripple and for Coinbase and for Binance and all that. So
BNB's
Grayscale,
sitting at 212 right now. I don't know. I want them to survive. Like, people make a good point. Like, you don't want to root for CZ's demise, and they're 100% right. We lose Binance, like, crypto is going to be set back a long time.
oh yeah.
I don't even know
Well,
what would be
at
the
least alts.
international.
Definitely alts would suffer immensely.
I mean, I guess what's the other one? DYDX? No,
Yeah.
OKX. OKX is
Oh,
that other
okay.
big one in Europe. I'm just thinking of like who would even come up in the reins. Like, international people aren't going to touch Coinbase or Kraken. Albeit
Um,
Desi's a Kraken
I think
hound.
so many said this in the last stream. So many people on crypto Twitter are very aware of how to use a decentralized exchange now. I would imagine that if Binance disappears or has to begin to close accounts for KYC or something, then that'd be the go-to. Like it's very easy to use a DEX now than it ever was, and it continues to get easier at a shocking, surprising rate.
I honestly think by 2024, X Twitter is going to be a wallet. I also imagine it's going to be able to do swaps. Is my opinion. The they were memeing because the Twitter got approval in Alabama for crypto or some type of crypto custodio thing, so they have
Was
to
it crypto?
apply.
I thought it was just payment or
Or it
something.
might be payments or payment processing or something like that. But you have to realize, like, he already has PayPal to do USD transactions. Like, I think they're going to turn or Twitter into that. And he's talked about it being the global payment, like turning it into a global payment system, which that's not going to run on USD. That's got to be crypto. So
Mm.
we'll see. I just hope to God he doesn't do it off the back of Doge for the laughs. It's got to be off Bitcoin or Ethereum. I mean, Lightning could do it, but I don't know. We'll see. He was talking, for the longest time. They're not going to get into crypto, or they got out of Bitcoin because of the carbon emissions. And then they wanted to see the carbon emissions meet a certain threshold, and then that got hit. But then uh, Tesla ended up selling additional what was the remainder of their Bitcoin that they still had in their treasury. Albeit it's a down market, but still, I've always wanted them to start accumulating it back up. But we'll
Well,
see.
no, I think that Tesla still holds it, but the SpaceX portion is sold, right? Where there was never an official confirmation of what the Wall Street Journal meant. Like there was a way the wording wasn't clear how much was sold and who sold it. how I read it, how I remember reading it, is it was like SpaceX had a holding that they don't have to disclose because they're not publicly traded, right? That they had a treasury of Bitcoin as well, and that was sold. But I don't think that
So
Tesla's is sold.
if I recall
That was my interpretation.
correctly, Tesla had a big chunk of it way back in the day, and when they sold it, people assumed they sold all of it. What it really was is they sold like 90 or like 95% of it. And then I think the recent news thing was them selling an additional chunk of that like 5 or 10% remainder, but you may be right. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I guess we'll get clarity soon as we enter earnings season. Because did that happen after Tesla earnings? Last earnings?
I don't recall, but that's how that's where it gets leaked. Or not, that's where it gets official. It's the only thing about the earnings, because even there were rumors about Tesla buying Bitcoin and no one listened to it way back in the day. And then that news hit and we went to 60K.
I got to get going. It was good chatting with you. Thanks for having me on.
Same. Thanks for coming out here and sharing the alpha. Guys, ever make sure you follow Doppel. He's always in the Discord dropping alpha, always doing his own thing as well. So definitely buy Friendtech keys before that rugs.
Thanks, dude.
Anyway, anytime you want to hop on, as always, it's a pleasure. I'm gonna drop his info in the link or in the chat. And also, if you're new here and don't know what's any of this stuff is, why it looks like rainbows, this is all brought to you by Rainbow Trends, rainbow-trends.com. You can check out all of our different custom tools and indicators where we look at market. It's good stuff. I'm a bit biased because we have a lot of good communities in the Discord. These tools, you can sign up for free subscriptions and all that, or premium if you want, but no pressure. But anyway, thanks for coming on. I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for chat, everyone. I'm going to try to do this weekly. It's going to be about Wednesday or Thursdays at 8 p.m. Likely Wednesdays for now, but we'll keep everyone else posted.